I'm bigcal, welcome to my world, and welcome to Questober III. So before we get towards the end of the month with the big major review of the mainline Dragon Quest game, which Dragon Quest III this year, I'm going to be taking a look at a Dragon Quest spin-off title. Last year I looked at Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior Monsters, so logically you may think I'd take a look at Dragon Warrior Dragon Quest Monsters too. This is no place for logic. Now, I like to vary things up a bit, so every year won't just be a sequel to the spin-off title I looked at the year before. Otherwise, I'd be doing nothing but Dragon Quest Monsters games for the next 8 to 9 years. Instead, I'm going to be looking at a spin-off title I never thought I was ever going to bother playing or even owning, and that is Dragon Quest Heroes on the Sony PlayStation 4. Dragon Quest Heroes, or as its full title actually is, Dragon Quest Heroes The World Tree's War and The Blight Below, is a Dragon Quest themed version of Dynasty Warriors. Dynasty Warriors is typically a game set in ancient China, placing players in control of legendary figures from history during battles that they actually took part in. Then, to make things more interesting for gamers, the gameplay has you going up against dozens and dozens of enemies at once, allowing you to go absolutely berserk and smash through everything like you're Kratos from God of War. Unfortunately for me, the only Dynasty Warriors game I own and have played is Dynasty Warriors 2 on the PlayStation 2. The combat is slow and dull, and it put me off even trying any of the games in the series, including the spin-offs, for all these years. Over the years, we've had numerous crossovers with Dynasty Warriors and other popular games, ranging from One Piece, Fire Emblem, Zelda, and Persona 5. What all of these crossovers did was take the basic core hack and slash gameplay against hordes of enemies and work it wonderfully into the look and feel of the IP that they are doing a crossover with. And with Persona 5 Strikers and the Dragon Quest Heroes games, they managed to incorporate the turn-based jrpg mechanics into the games, making them feel more like an action RPG, but with the insane number of enemies to battle at any one time, it ramps up the enjoyment for me by like 1,000,000. The game was originally released back in 2015 on the PlayStation 3, as well as the PlayStation 4 on the same day, but in Japan only. When it finally came to the West a year later, it was only on the PlayStation 4. And then a couple of years later, in 2017, the Nintendo Switch actually got a release of it, with the sequel bundled in a double pack. But Square Enix, being Square Enix, didn't release that one to the West because they seem to hate the West and Dragon Quest. They don't seem to want to give us most of the games at all. If it's not Final Fantasy, they don't really care that much. So, because of that and all the different releases never making it over here, the only one I'll be looking at is the PlayStation 4 version. In a world where humans and monsters live peacefully, two royal guards to Doric, the King of Arbor, are enjoying a festival when out of nowhere, the monsters suddenly attack. We get a glimpse of some dark magic being performed by no doubt some evil being that causes the once friendly monsters to turn into, well, monsters, setting up the villain for this no doubt very deep story. Lucius and Aurora, the aforementioned guards, though you can rename them to anything you like as their names are never actually spoken, I just kept them the same out of laziness, must rush to the king's side to protect him from this new threat, and so begins a small tutorial to get us used to the controls, more on those later. Once you've dispatched the monsters in the castle, the king commands you to rid the city of monsters in order to protect his people, and this gives you the chance to battle your first big boss of the game, the iconic Green Dragon. From here, you'll travel to various locations around the world, clearing out the monsters and coming across new party members to help you out. These party members happen to be characters from other Dragon Quest games, ranging from Elena and Maya from Dragon Quest IV, to Bianca from Dragon Quest V, Terry from Dragon Quest VI, and of course, everyone's favourite, Yangus from Dragon Quest VIII. The only new characters in your party are the two main characters. You get to pick between the two at the start of the game, but both are integral to the story. King Doric and Isla, who is a genius and the head of the Institute of Ingenuity. She is vital to the game with her technology and the fact that she just seems to conveniently have answers and information for what you have to do next and where you need to go. Luckily, she's a fun character, so I can forgive her role in the game. In total, you end up having 13 party members to choose from, with your chosen main character always having to be in the party. Lastly, there is Helix, a support character who just so happens to be a heal slime that wasn't affected by dark magic because he was in a pot at the time, I think. They never really explained it, but there is a small hint that he might be more important to the story later on. Every so often in battle he can show up and heal your party, so he's somewhat helpful. As you continue to travel to new locations and meet new party members, you will come across an evil being named Velasco, and he is revealed to be the last child of Night, and he's trying to bring about the return of his master, the evil dragon Shadroth, Lord of the Night. It's during the first meeting with him that he happens to mention that the two main characters may or may not be, they are, spoiler, it's pretty obvious, Children of Light, which puts you opposed to each other just by birth and not by the fact that Velasco is an evil bastard. The rest of the story from here on is you simply trying to stop Velasco from bringing about eternal darkness or whatever it is, and gaining new powers in order to stop him. I could go a lot more into detail about this, and I did in fact do so in the original version of the script. But when I realised I'd wrote an entire A4 page just going over all the different story elements, I thought that's a little bit much, and so I condensed it down into what you've just heard. That way I don't go over everything, I don't spoil everything, don't ruin everything, and I leave a lot to the imagination and leave it just for you to go and play, so you can experience it for yourself. Besides, there is something that I would like to talk about a lot more than the story. Since my only experience with the Dynasty Warriors series is the second game way back on the PlayStation 2, I'm sure to absolutely everybody's surprise, the gameplay has improved a ton since then. Combat is just faster, smoother and more fluid, and there are tons more enemies on screen at once for you to utterly destroy. So much so that, well, I think from this point on it's probably best that I don't compare this game to Dynasty Warriors anymore, just because, well, it's kind of silly. There's been so much, improvements made, no doubt, in the main Dynasty Warriors games that I haven't played, that comparing this to a 20-year-old game just seems foolish. Basic attacks are done with these square and triangle buttons, with square being a faster, light attack and triangle being used as a more heavy attack to deal a little bit more damage. You can button mash like crazy and create some combos as expected, and it's always fun to destroy multiple enemies at a time doing it this way. Pressing X lets you jump, just for a few bits of platforming in the game, and of course for doing different types of attacks, be it hitting flying enemies or crashing down on enemies on the floor. This is a good time to mention that there are two types of control schemes. There is Quick and Slick. I played the entire game using the quick controls, which give you less control over things, but when you button mash, it puts combos together, you don't have to do a thing, it's nice and fast and easy to get used to and just fun. Slick, from what I understand, has you giving more input for when you want to actually do combos and things like that, and I believe that's more of a traditional Dynasty Warriors thing, and that's how the games usually are. The little bit of research that I did to look into this wasn't able to find much information, but apparently, I have to stress apparently, I have no real proof of this, just what I've read online. Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest, requested this quick gameplay style to make it easier for Dragon Quest fans to just hop into the game and play it and have fun, even if they've never played a Dynasty Warriors game before, or like me, haven't played one in 20 years. I approve of this, no idea if it's true, but if it is, good on you, Yuji Horii. Very, very happy to have that. Really worked out well for me, who, like I said, haven't played a Dynasty Warrior game since the PlayStation 2 era. When in combat, pressing and holding the R1 button brings up another menu for special attacks, basically mimicking the turn-based jrpg menus of a regular Dragon Quest game. Still holding the R1 button, then pressing a face button will perform an attack, assuming you have enough MP for it. You start off with just one attack, but as you level up you can upgrade your character and give them more specials. The two main Children of Light characters also gain the zoom ability, which is unique to them, and once you acquire zoom points on the map, you can fly around to different locations in order to take out new monsters that might appear or help out an NPC. Each character will gain skill points when they level up for you to use in the upgrade menu. Most of the upgrades are the same for everyone, with 90% of it being to increase things like strength, defense, magic ability, etc, etc. However, they all have a small number of unique upgrades for their unique special attacks. As I mentioned, you can gain some new special skills to fill out the face buttons, and from there you can also increase their power for certain moves as well. And instead of simply making them do more damage when you press the button during battle, you will gain some control over how much more damage they can do. Some attacks you can hold in the face button and it will keep doing the attack over and over a set number of times, causing set damage each time. Some attacks, such as Zap, let you hold in the button and increase the attack from a basic Zap to Zapple to Kazap, all depending on how much MP you have and if you can afford to upgrade the attack at that time. Weapons, of course, play a part in the combat as well, and you have a variety of different weapons, though each character is stuck with just one weapon type. So you have your traditional swords, you'll have an axe, a spear, a club, a bow and arrow, etc, etc, etc. While some will also use swords, the same as other characters, there are only particular swords that they can use that the other characters who use swords can use, or can't use, sorry. A little bit confusing there, but yeah, it's easy enough to follow when you get into the menus as to what you can buy for who and what you can't, so that's very much appreciated. So there are ranged attacks and close ranged attacks based on which weapon type a certain character has. There are some uses for ranged attacks, with the bow and arrow for example, or throwing a boomerang. But honestly, for the majority of the gameplay, I try to keep those out of my party unless absolutely necessary for the mission at the time. Just going in and wrecking everyone with short range weapons seemed to be the best tactic for me. And speaking of party members, as your party grows you can have up to 4 people in a team to take on whatever challenges are ahead, and pressing the L2 button during battle allows you to switch between them, letting you take advantage of their different weapon types and abilities if you want to. While you always have to have at least one of the 2 main characters in your party at all times, it is nice knowing that you don't really have to use them that much at all in battles if you don't want. Personally, there were 2 other party members that you do eventually get that I much preferred over all of the others. However, there was a reason to switch between characters during battles that I'll talk about now, and that is tension. Tension has been featured in numerous Dragon Quest games, however its use here is a little unique. Games prior to Heroes that used tension just allowed for an increase in power and magic when attacking or using abilities. Games after Heroes did something similar but also allowed for some massive combo attacks. Heroes is definitely the middle ground on those. Once it's built up and activated, you can do more damage, you will take no damage from monsters, and you can use abilities without the need for NP. But once that time runs out, or you press the circle button, you will activate a coup de grace, a massively powerful special ability unique to each character. This meter will build up for all character members in the party during a battle, however it does so very slowly unless you are controlling them, which is why I find it necessary to switch between all 4 characters during a battle just to build up that tension meter a bit, so when the time comes and it's needed, you can sometimes pull off all 4 in a row, and create massive damage.
Goddess, give to me strength! Thwack! 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 Be gone away!
Lastly, we have monsters. Taking ideas from the Monsters spin-off series, you gain capsules as the story progresses, so you can occasionally capture monsters when you defeat them. Any defeated monster has a chance to leave behind a medal, and when you pick it up and capture it, you can then use the D-pad to select the monster that you want, press up, and they will be unleashed onto the battlefield. Monsters, like your party members, all have their own unique abilities that you'll want to take advantage of. Some monsters will stick around like additional party members almost, though you can't control them, fighting off other monsters until either their health depletes or the job is done. They won't go too far from where you unleash them though, so don't expect you to follow them around the map or anything. Other monsters will simply arrive, cast a spell or an ability, and then leave. Managing your monsters can be key to victory sometimes, so it's well worth experimenting with this feature and learning exactly how it works. Not long into the game, you take flight in a flying hub of sorts, the Institute of Ingenuity run by Isla. You'll spend your time between battles here, and as the story progresses, so do the facilities. You can walk around and talk to other party members and the odd crew member. You can find a couple of shops to buy weapons, armour and accessories to help your team as strong as possible. There is a church here available for you to save your game at any time, as well as power up healing stones for you to use during battles if needed. Like so many jrpgs, there is a crafting system, allowing you to use all of the seemingly random items dropped by monsters to create actual useful accessories. You will need recipes first though, some of which can be found out in battles, and others can be bought with a certain currency Dragon Quest fans might be familiar with. Mini-medals. Yep, even Dragon Quest Heroes has them, only you don't just collect them by finding them in random chests or rare drops from monsters. Anytime you earn a PS4 trophy, you'll also earn an in-game achievement, which can then be exchanged for mini-medals. And if that wasn't enough, every time you kill a monster, it gets added up to a total. And once you've killed a set amount of one particular monster, you can exchange that data for mini-medals as well. This method is fantastic in a number of ways because A, it's quick and easy to get a bunch of mini-medals that way, and B, it makes grinding and levelling up etc. feel even more worth it, as you don't just earn levels, you also get the mini-medals that you can collect and spend on recipes, rare items that you might have a hard time finding from enemy drops, and even high-priced weapons and armour. Yeah, some of the weapons and armour can go for around 80 mini-medals. Seems like a lot at first, but trust me, you'll be able to buy those in no time at all. But if those methods of finding mini-medals kind of bore you, there is another way that you can earn them as well, and that is with side quests. New ones will unlock as you work your way through the game, but you can only accept 8 at a time. Some of them will ask for a particular item, some of them will want you to go back to previous locations and clear out another bunch of monsters, and some will ask you to kill a set number of a particular monster. While the item type quest can technically be completed before you even accept, as long as you have those items in your inventory, the monster killing ones cannot. Even if you've killed, say, 1,000 slimes prior to the quest, it will not count. Instead, it will only keep track of the monster deaths after you've accepted the quest. This can be a bit of a pain depending on the type of monster, but it's not too bad. Towards the end of the game, there are some more unique side quests based around the new party members that you find, aka the ones from other Dragon Quest games. Those are really nice and unique and add a little bit more to those characters and their story beyond, hey, we just kind of showed up in this world, guess we'll help you out now because we're good guys. Yeah, so that's always good. The main purpose of this flying monstrosity though is to act as a giant Uber between story locations. Each new location typically has a purpose for visiting it beyond just clearing out the monsters. However, you will have to clear out a ton of monsters on your way to the village, town, city, etc. And that basically sums up the main gameplay loop. Find new location, go to new location, kill tons of monsters, gain new information or abilities to continue your journey. Between the different locations, all with their own visual style, music and monsters, the new party members you begin to run into in the first half of the game, and the different things you can do aboard the Institute of Ingenuity, I never got bored of what is essentially, at its very core, the same thing over and over again, and that is the sign of a good game. Strategy is key! We'll start this section off with the things that I don't like, that way we can end on a much more positive note. And the thing that I potentially hate the most about this game is the male main protagonist's character. I just want to punch this guy in the face every time he opens his mouth. The thing is, I'm still unsure, after all this time of playing the game, if his character is meant to be a joke or serious. It's very weird. You see, he comes across as being some like uber intelligent major strategist and all this. You know, every time there's a cutscene and they're going into battle, it's like, I must devise a strategy. Yes, I've got it. We'll do this and this, but he always gets cut off by everyone who just wants to go punch things. You know, so it's like, does he have a great strategy? Is he a genius? We don't really know. He gets cut off. Or is it supposed to be funny that he gets cut off and his plans are shit and, you know, it's just better to just go in and hit things with a big heavy object? I don't know. And then when he does get the chance to explain things, it's like, oh, I figured this out, of course, it's this and this and that, and you're just looking like, everyone's figured that out, mate, that's the most obvious thing ever. So I don't understand if he's supposed to be a genius, or if it's funny that he's not a genius, but he thinks he's a genius, but everyone knows he's not a genius and just kind of goes along with it. I don't know, I just want to punch him in the face. Somebody please punch him in the face. So, if you're starting playing this game for the first time after watching this video, awesome, but make sure you go with a female protagonist. Her character's not exactly some groundbreaking thing either, but dear God, he is nowhere near as annoying as this guy. Just... grinding. No, I'm not doing the dance. While this certainly isn't a traditional JRPG, it does have a lot of elements of an action RPG, in that you level up, gain experience, level up, gain skill points to upgrade to get new abilities and things. Great. And for, say, the first half of the game, it's fairly easy. You'll level up quite a lot, you'll gain tons of skill points, and everything's really fun, and yeah, it feels rewarding to go out and kill things. And then, just after around the halfway point, it stops being easy to get things. Despite facing newer, stronger enemies that give you more experience, the amount of experience needed to go up a level seems to just outweigh the new amounts of experience you get. Even using the crafting workshop to get the accessories to increase the amount of experience you earn, it barely seems to matter at all. Not only that, but the skill points you earn seem to decrease a ton once you get to around level 50. You go from gaining maybe 10 points per level to 1. You are literally being punished for being too high of a level, but you need to be that high of a level to take on the bosses that are at that stage of the game. Yeah, so I never actually finished, upgrading an entire character sheet for anybody, just because I was needing, say, 15 points to upgrade something, and I was getting one at a time per level. And it's just like, who knows how many untold hours it would take for me to grind, to level up, to get enough skill points, to level up all of those abilities. I don't know, it just makes no sense, and it's even worse when you beat the game and there is some post-game content in there. I'm going to spoil some of it, not all of it. So when the game ends, you gain access to a bunch of new locations which let you refight a bunch of bosses throughout the game, only now they're even more powerful. Like, insanely powerful. And there are even a few surprise bosses to fight that, you know, Dragon Quest fans will know and very much appreciate them being in there. Unfortunately, the level that I was at, after beating the game and the final boss, I was getting one-shotted, all 4 party members, by all of these bosses. Which means I would have to level up, and level up, and level up, in order to survive their attacks, and counter-attack, and win. And honestly, I was just having none of it at that point. Just, it's there if you want it. More content, great. Just not for me. I am so glad I'm not a completionist, because I would have probably hated this game just for the post-game content and how much you would have had to have leveled up and how long that would have taken you. Insanity. Main game, great. Post-game, fan service. No, not that kind of fan service. The good kind. The kind where they bring things from other Dragon Quest games that Dragon Quest fans will know and love and are excited to see, and it's just really, really cool. We have things like familiar characters, monsters, weapons, items, skills, spells and abilities. Also, adding new things on top of that to make the game stand out on its own. The world is completely new, so while you are visiting previous Dragon Quest locations, that doesn't matter when you get to experience classic Dragon Quest in different ways. Obviously, having fan faves from previous games show up is a biggie, especially when you get to hear some of them voice acted for the first time. The monsters are another fun aspect, as this was the first time we got to see any of them in actual HD, since prior to this game the only 3D games were on the PlayStation 2 or DS and 3DS, which aren't exactly high quality. Repetition? What repetition? Now, I have talked about this a little bit already, but I want to go over it again, just because it is definitely one of the better things about the game. Other than that awful post-game stuff which has repetition out the arse, the main game just doesn't have it. At least, not in the traditional sense. Yes, you do just go to different locations and clear out monsters. However, it never feels repetitive due to the sheer number of options and variety. Swapping out party members gives you different weapons to use, along with the unique skills and abilities for each character. And of course, you can switch between the 4 party members within battles to continuously change things up. If you do start to get bored of just doing the story, do some side quests. Maybe craft some items, or spend some time checking out what you need to do in order to gain another achievement and earn some more mini-medals. Basically, what I'm saying is there is always something to do and some different way to do it that you just never get bored. Honestly, I never thought I was going to like this game as much as I did. My albeit very limited experience with the Dynasty Warriors series all those years ago really just turned me off the entire series until recently, and it took, to be honest, the IP of Dragon Quest to in any way make me interested enough to buy the game. I try to avoid action RPGs for the most part, much preferring traditional turn-based battle systems. Yet here we are with around 40 hours of gameplay, and I am a fan. The battle system is a blast, mixing elements of an action RPG with turn-based RPGs and tossing in the crazy hack and slash gameplay that makes you feel like a deity with the amount of damage and death you cause with a single slash of a sword or swing of an axe. The gameplay, combined with the wonderful world of Dragon Quest, the designs from Akira Toriyama, and the classic music we all know and love, helps to create such a fun spin-off title to one of my all-time favourite gaming series. The flaws are few and far between for me, and there is just so much to love about this game. making it an easy recommendation to anyone who's a fan of Dragon Quest, RPGs, action RPGs, hack and slash games, or Dynasty Warriors. A fan of any one of those things can play this game, in my opinion, and have a blast. Plus, there's a sequel looming over their shoulder there, hello, that I know is going to be just as awesome because it's going to be more of the same in a lot of ways, but with probably some improvements and new additions added there, along with the new characters and story and locations. Cannot wait to play that one. It won't be next year because I like to change things up, so the next spin-off title that I review for next year's Dragon Questober will be something different. But I am very much looking forward to playing that game at some point in time. Well, I'm bigcal, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week for the next video in Dragon Questober III.